Hello, I'm Brandon Rhiness, and today I'm going to be doing a commentary on the Ezzera and Gore-Girl horror anthology, which is, as its title suggests, a horror anthology that is made up of all the short horror films that my team and I have made over the last few years. So let's just go back to this title sequence here. I will be starting and stopping this a lot, so if you want to just watch the full movie without me constantly interrupting and talking, then you can watch it on Tubi or Reveal or Amazon or any of the other streaming platforms that it's on. So I can't remember how all of this came about. Basically, I just kind of realized one day that I had all the short horror films I've done. You put them all together, it was about an hour long, which was nearly a feature-length film. So I kind of started to think, what if I extended it a bit, shot a wraparound story and then put it together, we'd have a horror anthology, because I do like, Tales from the Crypt and Creepshow and other anthologies like that. So I kind of wanted to do my own, and this is it. So this here is my parents' basement. They are currently in the process of moving, so I will likely never see this basement again. They've been there for a couple decades now, so it was nice of them to let us use it. I remember when I first started becoming a filmmaker, I always knew kind of how much of a intrusion it is to have a film crew in your house, so I kind of always promised my parents that we would never use their house because I didn't want to impose on them. But then the point came where, we used so many different people's houses and we were in constant need of new locations. So for this one, we had a fairly small crew. So I asked them if they could use the house, and they were more than happy to. That punching bag there we've had ever since me and my brother were children. So we grew up in a different house, but it's been hanging there for a while. So here we have the introduction of Natalie
anything that's still here at the end of the week goes in
and
the trash.
Mr. Wallace, who are played
Anything
by
valuable?
There was. Your sister took it.
Sam Au there, and there's Elena Hlebnikova.
Of course.
Well, have fun and give me a call when you're done.
I think this is Elena's first time playing a main character. I think up to this point she'd played a small part in Grotesque, and I think we'd shot Horror Show before this, or around the same time. I can't remember. Maybe it was after, but she played a part in there. But this is kind of her first leading type role.
And I'll come to
A desk there. I wrote my very first scripts on that desk back when I was, I guess they weren't really scripts, but stories back when I was a very little kid.
yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so this is Natalie's parents' basement, and her parents died, so she's kind of allowed to take anything she wants that's of interest after her sister looted it, and anything she doesn't take is going in the garbage. So she looks around and doesn't really find anything. And Andrew Boulos did the score for this movie and did a great job of it. Adds a lot of kind of scary ambiance to it. And I like to say that that misspelling on there is intentional, but I guess I should confess that I just spelled it wrong. And once I spelled it wrong, I didn't want to have to peel the tape off and try again, because it would have made a mess of it. So I just figured that I'd leave it as it is and pretend that the character in the movie, whoever wrote that, is the one that screwed up. And I remember, I think it was Sam that got us that that VCR. They're hard to come by these days, so we found that, and then we found we had to find an old TV that we could plug the RCA cables into. So I think that was my parents' TV, and we also ended up using it in a couple other movies before it was finally trashed. And here we got Ezzera Eve and the Gore-Girl. Ezzera is played by Julie Van Dam, and Eleanor the Gore-Girl is played by Paige Hounsome. And I think it all came about, I know Gore-Girl came first because Paige had mentioned to me one time she kind of wanted to be involved in more projects, do more acting, and she's like, I'll, if you want to dump blood all over me, like I'll do whatever. And so I just kind of had that image in my mind of her having blood dumped all over her. So that kind of came together, and then this whole thing, I kind of figured maybe we could have a host. Originally, there was going to be no Natalie story. It was just going to be these hosts, but that didn't really make a good, like, kind of through story for it. So I remember when I wanted to write these, I was sitting here trying to write in my apartment building here, and there was some construction that was going on in the apartment above me, and it was like there's this drilling and hammering going on all day. It's kind of driving me nuts. So I ended up going to a hotel for a couple days, which I've done a few times in my life, just to kind of get some quiet and be away from distractions. So I just kind of sat there all day and basically wrote out all this stuff that the two hosts here say, as well as the entire wraparound story. And I think it turned out really well. They're both very good actors, and they kind of make this movie. That chair, I remember, it was, which was honestly a big deal. Like, we wanted a nice looking, cool looking chair like that. And it was up until like a day or two before the shoot, and we were still trying to wrangle it. We had some backup chairs that we could just use some kind of crummy looking chair if we had to. And we finally found this one, and it kind of really added a lot to the movie.
Welcome. My name is Ezzera Eve, and this is the 4 a.m. Film Fright Fest, where we show you the hidden gems in the world.
So we colored this to make it look like it's, really old from, 70s or 80s kind of cable TV. So it didn't look like this when we shot it. We kind of did this on purpose. And I've noticed some people online saying that it's like a screw up on our part, that they think it's supposed to be set in the 70s, but they have modern technology. And I thought it was obvious that this whole thing takes place in the present day. They're just making the show to look like it's, vintage. So yeah, I don't get why. I thought people would understand that, but apparently some don't.
Short horror film. This is my co-host.
And yeah, that was Jamie Clark that made this blood. I think I still have that bloody dress in one of my drawers somewhere. It's probably all crusty and gross now.
Eleanor, the Gore-Girl. Eleanor is a lady of few words, but she leaves a lasting impression. Mostly in the form of bloody footprints all over the floor.
And yeah, Julia did an awesome job with just, the way she talked, and just, her mannerisms and facial expressions and everything. I don't think we even did any like rehearsals or anything on this. I'm pretty sure that she just kind of showed up and did it, and boy did she nail it.
Viewers, Eleanor will haunt your dreams. She will kill you in your bed. But we're not here to discuss Eleanor. We're here for horror. In tonight's little artistic endeavor, we meet a woman who receives the worst birthday present. This one is called The Painting of Ebony Shaw.
So yeah, Painting of Ebony Shaw is the first horror that we have coming up here. It was one of the newer ones that we made, kind of newer. That's Lindsay Christopher right there. She was my co-producer on it. I'd met Lindsay before, and I think she'd even been in a couple of my films or something, but so we knew each other. And I remember I went to the meeting of the Edmonton Filmmakers Group, and I hadn't been to any of the meetings in a couple of years, and she was there, and we started talking, and we kind of came up with this idea, and I was like, do you want to, because she did makeup, and she wanted to act, and she could do all this stuff. And I was like, well, do you want to partner on a short horror film? And she was like, sure. So we kind of came up, I think, just as we were sitting there, we just came up with this idea for A Painting of Ebony Shaw. I think we even came up with the title. And over the next few days, I wrote the script, and then it was soon after we shot it. So it all came together very quickly, and it's still one of my favorites that we did. I think it just turned out very well.
Thanks, Bobby.
And she plays the main character in it.
Ebony.
And there's Julie Wayland, who's been in pretty much every single thing I've ever done. After this was the first day I met her. I think it was Jarvis Greiner who had recommended her to be in one of my films. So I cast her in this, and she has one line in it, which is made of one word. And then from then on, we kind of hit it off and started working together on a lot of projects, and she's a great co-producer. But at this point, I just needed an actor to say Ebony. And that's Danielle Kravenke. This is the first project I had worked with her. I think I only met her once before when we were doing like a makeup test or something for this movie. I'd seen her online, some of her like modeling stuff, and she was always, promoting herself. So I figured I would cast her in this role, and she did a great job.
Sorry. I'm giving this to you. It's yours now. Thanks.
Yeah, and I had to cut around her taking the wrapping off of that painting because there was so much of it, and it came off in pieces that it took her like a good minute and a half to rip it all off. So I had to trim it down in editing.
Wow. Thanks, Ebony.
You gonna show us?
Huh? Yeah.
Is that a painting or a photograph? It looks so real.
Did someone paint this? Some things are better left a mystery.
What the hell is wrong with her? For a supposed health nut? She looks like a drug addict.
If I remember correctly, this part here was much longer. There was a lot of other dialogue about stuff, but it was very exposition-y and kind of boring, so I cut most of it out.
Maybe she's still mad you're dating her ex?
It's been 2 years. I think she's over it.
Well, that painting is freaking freaky.
Hi, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. Make sure he gets home safe. Of course. Okay. See ya. Bye.
So this was Lindsay's apartment that we shot in. If you watch Faisal's movie Give and Take, that Lindsay also plays a big role in, that was also shot a lot in her apartment. So,
Anything you want to talk about? Okay. Don't you think it's time to go? I'm sorry.
oh yeah, that's what we did that very first day when I first met Danielle. She came to the city to make this picture, so we put her in makeup, and then we had to do a couple different versions of that picture. And then we altered it a bit, of course, to make it look as freaky as it is. Kind of like that picture. I'm thinking I should hang it up in my living room. That song that she's playing, the little melody there, was written by Daniel Martin, who is in the band Daniel Martin and the Infamous. He was kind enough, he's a band from Edmonton, so he was kind enough to let us use that song in the movie, which was awesome of him, so everyone should check out his band. Katie Gobert was the cinematographer on this movie, and she did a great job. She hears the sound of an apple being eaten. I remember we needed someone to eat that apple and make it look like that. And Mike Reed, who was the guy at the beginning with the beard, he wanted to do it, and he kind of made a big deal. He wanted to get the right look for the apple, so he came up with the idea of what he called the Looney Tunes Bugs Bunny method, and he wanted to double check with me to make sure that I was happy with that. And I was like, do whatever you want. So he kind of ate it like that, which gives it an interesting look. I just like that people really care about the small details. And it's hard to see. I couldn't really tell when we shot this, but the apple's missing from her hand. But I've had people that don't quite get that just because the painting's so dark. So it's kind of like it fell out. And then she drops the apple, looks for it, and it is missing. And it is now back in the picture, which is hard to see because it's dark red. But so we had two versions of the painting, one with the apple, one without.
Hello?
Did you hear about Ebony?
What about Ebony?
She's dead. It was just lying on the floor. Maybe.
And this bar here we were shooting in, it's called Liz's Homestyle Grill. It's not there anymore, but it used to be on Jasper Ave and 90th Street in Edmonton. And I lived right across the street in one of the apartment buildings there. And I remember it was Afton Rents and I, back when we were producing Mental Case, we had a meeting there and we were trying to find a location, like a restaurant bar location, because the one that we had fell through. So as we were sitting there, we were kind of like, I wonder if they'd let us shoot in here. So we asked the waitress if we could talk to the manager, the owner. So she went back and brought Liz out, and we asked her, and Liz was super cool about it. And she's like, yeah, you can shoot here, whatever you want. And over the next few years, we shot a few things in there, and she was more than accommodating for us, and I'm very happy with that. And if you notice in the background, well, there's Omar in the background right there, Omar Abu Bakr. Most of those people in the background have gone on to play much bigger roles, not only in my films, but in a lot of other things made in Edmonton.
Someone ate it at the party.
But it was missing from the painting. I know what I saw.
Maybe the news
That's
about
Jen
Ebony?
Rep as
No,
her
this
friend.
happened before you told me about Ebony.
I told you not to hang that thing in the first place. I don't know how to put this politely, but Ebony...
It always bugs me that, I don't know how it happened, but for some reason we were shooting this shot, we bumped the table like every time. I think we did like 3 or 4 times, and somehow I think it was just when Jen was pouring the sugar there, the table shook. So every shot is just like a little bit wobbly. So I had to pick the
His parents
least
don't want you
wobbly
at the
one.
funeral.
Yeah,
Rob either.
yeah. No one else has complained about
There's
it.
no way she killed herself because of me.
Then there's Terrence Van Camp as
Broke up 2 years
her
ago.
boyfriend.
I think she had other problems.
Holy shit, you're right. I don't want a picture of my ex hanging in your living room. Take it down.
My house, my rules.
You seriously want this thing hanging in your house after everything you just told me? Ebony's gone. We should just move on.
Leave it.
I don't know. Go talk to her. You're her best friend.
And in the
Is there
background
anything?
there, you can hear whatever they're watching is actually was Katie and I's first project that we produced together, which is The Man in the Box. And that's what they're watching.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Do you know if it's possible to talk to the dead? I don't know, real. There's a woman in my book club that's into that kind of thing. Do you want me to put you in touch with her?
Where are you going?
Bathroom.
I remember this shot here was so hard to get because we didn't have a focus puller. So Katie was trying to do it herself, and I remember we had to do it so many times, and just the way the camera's kind of following her, and then we kind of go around her and see Terrence there. She just kept blowing the focus every single time, and we'd take like 3 steps and okay, out of focus, start again, out of focus, and we did that over and over and over again, and I finally got frustrated. I told her, let's just run one through just so we can at least get one done, even if it looks bad. And I can't remember how many times we did it, but it was a lot before we finally got it. And even it's still not perfect, but it's good enough.
Rob, what are you doing? Rob,
What are you doing? Let go.
how long were you staring at that painting?
What?
You're spaced out staring at it.
Really?
You don't remember?
Sorry, I gotta go.
This is probably my favorite part coming up here. Oh, yeah, that was the third version of the painting, which was just a black picture. It turned out pretty well. Some people kind of get a scare from that.
You gonna tell me what's going on now?
That's Jen Rep again, her friend.
I'll deal with it.
So we actually shot that part in Lindsay's apartment, even though it's supposed to be her friend Jen's house. We didn't want to change locations, so we just we moved the furniture around and then just kind of pushed the camera in tight so you couldn't see where she was. I remember this here was some other person's house. They were just kind of on the other side of the back alley from where Liz lived. And, we didn't really know, because technically we're on their property, so we were trying to not draw a lot of attention, and we just shot this part really quickly. So this part here, you see Ebony Shaw walk by there on the left. I don't think that was in the script. If I remember correctly, I kind of just came up with that as we were doing it. I wanted to add something else that was scary. But in hindsight, it doesn't really make a lot of sense with the story because now that the painting's gone, Ebony Shaw shouldn't physically be there till the painting returns. But yeah, it's not a big deal. It's kind of a cool little part, and I like that shot.
No, I don't want to talk. I just want to sleep. Okay. Bye.
Yeah, and it was in the script that she put a door stopper thing in there. And then this is the one that we ended up using. It was a tiny little rubber one, which I kind of wanted just one of those traditional big wooden ones, but I guess this one served its purpose. It's also just something funny about using a door stopper like that to prevent a ghost from getting into your room. And she turns the light on because she's scared to sleep in the dark. The painting's back.
Rob, can you just call me back? I need to talk to you.
So this part, remember the whole movie, we'd originally planned to shoot it in 2 days, but we got behind schedule and had to do a full third day. And then there was still this one scene here that we didn't get done. So this is technically the 4th day we shot. And it was raining and freaking cold. It was super shitty out. We're out there with the camera and stuff, and it was raining, and we're all getting wet. And you see, she chucks it over into the water here. And this bridge, the last I saw of it, it was under construction, this whole area, so it probably doesn't exist anymore. But of course, somehow I'm the one that got volunteered to go grab that painting after she threw it in there. And I remember I was trying to walk across all those rocks you can see at the bottom there, and they were really slippery. So, I'm wearing my jeans, and I walk out into the water, and, at first, I step into it, and then it's up to my ankles, and then it's, rising, and I could see the painting there kind of floating in the middle. And next thing you know, the water's like up to my knees, and it was so cold out, and I was like, screw this, I'm not getting it. So I turned around and left it. So as far as I know, that painting's either still there or God knows what happened to it. So I think that's on Liz's balcony. We were trying to pretend that it's outside somewhere. And then this, we just used sound effects and then a light shining up in her face that we were making it look like flames.
Linda, please just come over. I know I've been acting weird, but if you knew what was going on, you'd understand why. Just come over and I can show you. Okay, fine.
Liz is a very good actor. I think she just nails this character, kind of just how scared she is and kind of going crazy and everything.
What do you want?
This was shot at the apartment building that I used to live in. In my apartment, so many of the shorts here were filmed in this. In my apartment, you'll see it many more times.
I'm giving this to you. It's yours now. I'm sorry.
You'll probably recognize it if you've ever watched I'm Haunted. We shot that entire movie in there.
Do you know what that crazy bitch just did? She ran up to me outside and gave me that painting. The one of Ebony.
What?
Like she seriously expects me to keep it? I threw it in the trash.
Good. Hate that thing.
So, you coming over tonight?
I can if you want me to.
So that's supposed to be Jen's house, or that character's house, but that was actually my bedroom. And we just threw that little multicolored blanket on there just to give it a bit more of a feminine look, I guess.
Well, I want you to.
Am I spending the night?
You better be.
Well, all right.
Yeah, that shot we called that the Jen shot. I think it's come up again for other films, and whenever I reference the Jen shot, people usually know what I mean.
I'll be over in a bit.
Yeah.
You hear what happened to Caitlin?
That's Mike Reed, the guy at the beginning with the beard. That's his voice.
What?
She's dead.
And you can see the blood dripping off there at the bottom. A lot of people miss that. It's actually pretty cool when you look back at it. I'm just going to back it up a bit here. If you look just to the left there of Lindsay, you can see it's like a yellow cloth that's taped to the wall. Because there's a vent right there next to the oven in my kitchen, and it was so freaking loud and there was no way to turn it off that sometimes even just, sitting there trying to watch TV and this insanely loud fan would annoy me. And of course it just wreaked havoc with trying to record sound for a movie, and you had this massive fan blowing, so we just taped a cloth over it to kind of mute it. Yeah, and that's the painting of Ebony Shaw. I have a lot of fond memories of that movie. It was, I think it was very well done.
I rather like the painting. I'd hang it in my parlor if it wasn't at the bottom of that creek.
And I kind of like this format of how the hosts have a little intro and extra to all the films.
Beats looking at Eleanor all day.
I'm hideous on the outside, but beautiful on the inside.
I saw your insides that time you vomited on the studio floor. Believe me, it was anything but beautiful.
You poisoned me.
Preposterous.
I just kind of like just the way their relationship is, and how Ezzera is so mean to her, and Eleanor tries to stick up for herself, which I guess she kind of does at the very end. People have been asking if there's going to be any more of them, and I want there to be. The only problem is I don't have enough horror shorts to make an entire new movie. But I was also thinking of doing just a movie where they're the main characters. Maybe they're traveling around somehow for their to film their show, when they end up, their car breaks down, they end up getting stuck somewhere, and horror type things happen to them, but it's kind of comedy at the same time. It's something I'm working on. Well, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't.
That was weird. I don't know why my parents have that.
Now we're back here to Natalie, who's waiting for Mr. Wallace to return so she can leave. Then she hears something upstairs. And turns out to be nothing. Mr. Wallace said he's going to be there in an hour or so Natalie decides to watch another movie.
Welcome. I'm your host, Ezzera Eve, and this is the 4 a.m. Film Fright Fest. You're in for a treat tonight. Tonight's film features what I consider to be one of the greatest characters ever committed to the screen. If she wasn't fictional, I'd invite her for a night on the town. Watch, and you'll agree. This one's called...
Yeah, I like this film coming up called Soccer Mom. I think a lot of people do. It's really more of a comedy than a horror. It's only horror for the last minute. But I think some people online have said that the whole thing's kind of scary with just the whole forced positivity thing, so some people just find the whole thing disturbing.
Hi, I'm Nicole. Soccer mom and proud of it. I'm sexy, savvy, and super prepared. A maternal, multitasking MILF. Kids!
And of course, that's Julie Whalen, who's in a lot of these.
The trick to being the perfect mom is scheduling.
And I don't think anyone else could have done this with the same degree of greatness that Julie did. And we actually, I can't remember who it was, someone on the team, might have been Laura or someone, actually filled all this out. I forgot these kids had names. Trumpet lessons, book club, soccer, swim, church fundraiser. Acting class, karate. They do taekwondo and karate.
Plan your month and stick to it. And always remember to smile. Kids! Time for school! Have a great day, kids. Sure, it's hard being a single mom when your husband leaves you for his 19-year-old employee, but I'm doing just fine, and I'm glad he's happy. No task is too difficult for me. Being a stay-at-home mom...
And that's Hudson Grace Kennedy, who's gone on to do some really cool things. She was also in Grotesque.
gives me more time with the kids, and I cherish it.
Mom.
Shut up! I'm trying to concentrate.
Little girl does her eye roll there. I never noticed that.
I believe in strict discipline. So when I get a phone call from the school that one of my kids stabbed another student and the other one started a fire, I send them straight to their rooms.
Yeah, this was part of what we call Horror Weekend, which turned out to be called that for a couple different reasons. But we'd originally done some of the films here, you'll see here, that were done a few years back. We called it Horror Day. We shot 5 short horror films in one day. They were all just, kind of 1 or 2 page things. And then we decided a few years later to do Horror Weekend, where we would film 5 slightly more complex horror scripts over a long weekend. And they all turned out well, but it was a hard shoot. Just everything went wrong. It was so stressful, and it was right after we did Hotbox, and Hotbox was like the perfect shoot. It just everything went smoothly. We all had a blast. We were kind of just all riding that high, and I think we were overconfident that we could jump into something and we didn't need to be as prepared as we should have been. And we paid the price for it because it was a slog to get through. So, we're much more experienced now, and actually Elizabeth Chamberlain and I just a couple days ago were talking about doing another horror weekend where we make more of these kind of things because it was fun and we got a lot of movies out of it. So I guess we'll see if that happens. Yeah, these kids are great. Hudson Kennedy and Pierce Briggs. They both appear in I'm Haunted as well, and they were such good actors, and they were very professional, and they followed instructions, and they did a wonderful job.
Sometimes I like to take the kids on a nice peaceful drive to the country. Did you know it's illegal to drop your kids off on the side of the highway in the middle of nowhere and drive away?
Speaking of Elizabeth, there she is on the right. Or on the left.
You just seem to have the perfect life. I think I would have murdered somebody by now if I had a life as hectic as yours.
Well, I have my sewing to relax me.
Oh, that's wonderful. You need a hobby.
Indeed, Betty.
It's kind of funny seeing Elizabeth in such a small role because she's since gone on to kind of be the lead in everything I do, or most of the things. So it's kind of weird that she's only in this kind of little cameo role here.
Good night, sweetie. When the kids are in bed, that's my mommy time. A chance to calm down and resist the urge to tear my hair out with my bare hands. Did you know that if a judge orders your ex-husband to pay you alimony and child support, it doesn't mean he'll actually do it? Well, time to relax.
So here we get to the horror stuff. This actually turned out really good. I think it was Christina Calicott, our makeup person, who made this fake skin, but it might have been James and Laura. I can't remember. That's James and Laura from our prop department that are locked up in those cages. And those wounds look good. That's Christina Calicott's work. It's freaking amazing. Yeah, it just looks really good. Poor Deanna Herder just walked up. Yeah, those are some gross looking wounds. And it's funny because that little area there with the brick and stuff, that's actually in Julie's basement. She has a little area that looks like that without the cages, of course. So once we saw that, it was like, oh, that is the perfect location.
I love tattooed skin. Well, I better finish this up and go to bed. Got a busy day tomorrow.
I don't have children, but I feel Nicole's pain. I left Eleanor on the side of the road and drove away, but she found her way back.
It was so cold out.
Perhaps I should lock her in a cage. Those poor souls in the film are understandably submissive. Although, with a nickname like Gore-Girl, I doubt her flesh would have much worth for a seamstress. Or would it? Eleanor, fetch my sewing machine and remove your blood-drenched clothes.
And I remember this sewing machine. It was actually my mom's friend Jody that we got it from. Because for some reason, I had a certain look in mind, and I didn't want, I wanted to have a certain look, and this is the best one we found, so we managed to get the one I want.
That was pretty good.
Welcome. I'm your host, Ezzera Eve, and this is the 4 a.m. Film Fright Fest. Tonight's little march through the macabre is a terrifying tale about a man named Spencer, who hasn't had much luck in the dating scene.
And then we have
given up
I'm
on
in love with the dead
traditional
girl.
routes of romance, he turns to more ghoulish means. This one is called I'm in Love with a Dead Girl.
So I'm in Love with a Dead Girl. I kind of consider that my first real film. I'd made other kind of really crappy things when I was younger, but this is the first one we made kind of after Mental Case, which was kind of practice. This is the first one where I hired a real crew, basically, like a director of photography and sound person and all that, and we made it professionally, and we actually did a crowdfunding campaign to raise money and stuff. So this it holds a special place in my heart because I got my start with this one. And Tom Antoni, who you see on screen there, he is to this day still working with us. He played Dr. Wash in Grotesque. That's probably where you might recognize him from.
So good.
There's Daryl Ports.
Delicious.
That's Karina Cornforth there on the left. I actually wrote a feature-length script of this movie of this kind of concept that I'm hoping to produce one day. And I also wrote a novella on it. And it kind of goes into a lot more detail about this couple here and how, they're basically, other than Spencer's two nerdy friends who you'll meet later, these are his only kind of cool friends. But you can tell that Daryl likes him, but his wife does not.
Great dinner, Spencer. I still think you picked the wrong career. You should have been a chef.
I don't cook for money.
Karina's just
I
kind
cook
of
for pleasure.
disgusted.
I love this guy.
Honey, why don't you go start the car? I want to talk to Spencer alone.
Okay, I'll be in the car.
Spencer, we love that you always invite us over, and you're great company. So don't take this the wrong way, but we can tell that you're lonely. You really need to get a girlfriend.
And I remember when I wrote that, there were people on the team, they kind of thought that what she says to him was too mean. And, I mean, it is kind of a real, kind of bitchy thing to say, but it also kind of, it's the theme of the show, so it kind of needs to be there. But, yeah, she's not a very nice person to say that to someone. Yeah, and so I kind of wanted to show him, he's probably doing online dating and meeting different people, so we have these kind of different dates.
So you're a nurse. What's
that he
that
goes
like?
on, and this is the
It's
boring
good.
date.
I like it.
So, do you travel much?
And it was probably right around this time I was doing, I was on Match, I was trying online dating, and some of these are kind of like very loosely based on my experiences. I mean, when you kind of meet so many people, and there's always just that little bit of awkwardness, especially when you're like kind of first date kind of thing. And I don't think any of them were as bad as this, but that's kind of what spawned it, is especially if you're like Spencer here, who's, he's trying his best and he's already an awkward person, and then you meet people like these, you could see how he would just kind of give up on the whole idea of it.
Not really. I'm busy with work.
So, what do you do for fun?
Like I said, I'm busy.
Then there was this other guy.
Oh, this is Olivia.
Dan. Oh my gosh, he was the worst. He would go out and get like super drunk and then come over my house at like 2 a.m. totally drunk, and my roommate would be like, what the hell? Right? And then there was this other guy, Kyle. Oh my gosh, he was
I can't remember how much of this I wrote and how much she ad-libbed. I remember writing that the last line she said when she's like, oh, and he came home and he was covered in, and then we cut it there. I remember writing that. So
worse. He would
either way,
disappear
she did a
for
good
like
job.
weeks at a time. No phone call, no text, nothing.
We shot this at the Keg in downtown Edmonton, which is no longer there. My roommate and co-producer Adam Storschuk at the time, he worked at the Keg. He worked at the South Side location, but he talked to the guys downtown, and they let us shoot here, which was super nice because it's a very nice restaurant.
And I ask his friends where he is, and of course, they don't know where he is. And then he shows up out of the blue a week later and pretends like nothing ever happened. And I'm like, what the hell? You know, right? Like, ugh. And then there was this other guy, Mike. Oh my God. I swear to God, he was a complete psychopath. Like, he would come over sometimes and he'd be like covered in...
Then here we have the Madison Nyan house as the texting date. And this is when Spencer's finally had enough and just gives up and walks away, and she doesn't even notice. Madison's actually a very good actor. We kind of wasted her talent here by having her not say or do much, but it's still a funny part. And that phonograph thing there, whatever you call it, and I think the violin from earlier, and a lot of these props, Diane Wolf, who's our set decorator, she got them for us, and it really added a lot to the set. Yeah, and there's Afton Rents. She worked on me on a bunch of things back in my earlier days. She's now in Toronto doing stunt work and stuff like that on some really big movies and TV shows. So she's done very good for herself. And this is when Spencer is finding out that her character Lucy Raven was killed in a hit and run, and he falls in love with her on site. And I remember this, it's the middle of the Canadian winter. It was freaking cold. I think it was in November. And I remember we had the the tracks laid out on the side of the road here, and we had a dolly that we were pushing along, and we're trying to get this shot, and it took a lot of takes. There's a similar shot later I'll point out, but this one took quite a lot. It's funny that picture there that he's holding. I think I bought the frame at like Dollarama or something. Bought a bunch of them, and then we print off a bunch of those pictures that I put in there. And I had those around my house for probably a couple years afterwards. Just, I think we had like 5 of them or something, and they were always, stacked up on my dresser or somewhere. So it always kind of seemed strange. People come over, and I just have multiple photographs of Afton Rents all over my house. It seemed kind of strange. Yeah, and the city of Edmonton, they were nice enough to let us shoot in the cemetery for nothing. We called them up, and they basically said as long as we don't, damage anything or, bother anyone, then we could just go ahead and shoot there. So we did. And, this was friggin' freezing, too, out there. And it was Adam Storschuk, my roommate, who designed this tombstone. And for every other movie since then, 3 or 4 times that we've used a tombstone, we always use the same one. We just fill in the letters. That it was made of styrofoam. The letters were carved out. We just kind of fill them in and then carve a new name into it. So we got a lot of use out of that tombstone. And to this day, it's in Adam's bedroom. And there was a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot, but the shovel there, I remember there was an issue on set because realistically it should have been like a spade that had like a pointed tip on it. Because especially with frozen ground, like there's no way that a shovel like that would actually be able to dig. But this was quite late at night, and it was really cold, and I think stores were already closed. So, we were kind of debating on set whether or not we should go try to find a good shovel. And finally I just said, like, we're already here, it's freezing cold, let's just shoot it. Because otherwise we're going to spend 2 hours trying to track down a different shovel, So yeah, 2015, that's when we filmed this. It's funny how quickly time goes by. And this is the cemetery that is on 107th Ave in Edmonton. And it's funny because Cynthia and I, one time we went on one of those ghost tours that was hosted by a woman named Morgan Knudsen, who's like a paranormal person. She's super cool. And actually, Elizabeth Chamberlain and I, when we had our paranormal podcast, we had her on the show quite a few times. But Cynthia and I went on Morgan's ghost tour, and one of the stops was this cemetery because, there's some famous people, I guess, buried there, and there's, like ghost stories about it or whatever. And as we were getting out of the bus, the tour bus, Cynthia mentioned, she's like, oh, Brandon filmed a movie here called I'm in Love with a Dead Girl. And Morgan was like, oh, I've seen that. So I kind of felt good that people had actually watched my movie. And that it was recognizable. This is Mike Charnay here. He's a director, producer from the Edmonton area. And he was nice enough to let us shoot in his house.
So I told him I'd been there 2 years. And if I wasn't going to get a raise, I was going to quit.
And so this is the first time that we see Lucy Raven. If you look closely, you can see we had some fishing line attached to the fork.
A man with my skills,
so we could pull it.
It's hard to find. I could get a job somewhere else.
We did a few makeup tests to get the dead makeup right, and it was kind of a fine line because I didn't want to go too far with it. That would be distracting. Like we could have done it that she was like decomposing, but we kind of figured like if she was embalmed and hadn't been dead that long because it's only been a week or two. So this is what we came up with, and we also wanted it something that we could apply fairly quickly because sometimes we had to take it on and put it back on several times throughout the day. And I remember Afton, I think she had some sort of reaction to it because I remember she messaged me one time and like after the shoot, and she's like, yeah, I'm at the hospital. Like I had a reaction to the makeup, and I was like, oh my God, are you okay? And she's like, oh yeah, I'm fine, no big deal about it. So yeah, she was a real trooper about it.
But I've been talking too much. Just tell me about yourself.
Yeah, you can see the fishing line there a bit. And it was hard too, like Afton said, like it was hard playing a dead body but having your eyes open. And she couldn't breathe. And it was funny enough, we did a screening. I think it was the first 2 episodes of Mental Case and this movie, and we had some other like short films and stuff. And we did like a premiere for it at a theater here in Edmonton. And it was while we were watching this movie, there's a scene that I'll point out later where Afton blinks. And I edited this thing. I watched it 100 times. I didn't notice, and I was like, oh my God! I finally noticed it on the big screen in front of hundreds of people. And so after that, we had to, digitally fix that part. It's very, very dark humor. Like a lot of people laugh at this, but there were some people that were disturbed by it. And actually, this was shot at that theater I just mentioned, the Garneau Theater on it's like 109th Street in Edmonton. And there's Morgan LeBlanc. You see kind of him there on the left-hand side. I'm pretty sure that was the day I met him. He went on to be in a bunch of my other projects, and he starred in some bigger movies, so he's doing pretty well. But this is the first time I met him. He was just some dude sitting in the crowd. This is one of my favorite parts here, how he just like jerks her head onto his shoulder. Can't remember what movie they're actually watching. So this is the part that like we kind of skirt around the issue, but people are disturbed because it's kind of implied, like he's having sex with the corpse basically. Even though we don't say that or show it, it's kind of assumed that that's what he's doing, which is obviously really gross. And I like that thing on the left there, that little scary looking puppet. I can't remember where we got that, but kind of looks cool.
Okay, this will go fine. No, there's no need to be nervous, Lucy.
Yeah, that was the part right there.
I'm just a little
where
on
she
edge
blinked.
about introducing my family to my new girlfriend.
It's Amber Shawn as the sister. It looks like she's suspicious there until you find out that she's kind of just completely loopy.
Dad died 5 years ago. I tell you that every time I see you.
Oh yeah.
In the book, I really get more
You two
into
make a
the
cute couple.
relationship between these two.
Do you think she's the one?
I know she's the one.
The book hasn't been released yet, but hopefully I'll put it out one of these days. This chessboard was used in a few of my projects. I actually just finally got rid of it. Like within the last few days, I was kind of cleaning out some of my closet stuff, and some of the pieces were broken, and it served its purpose, so it no longer exists.
So, does she talk?
She's shy.
That's Trevor Talbot. Funny enough, he's a filmmaker too, and I guess he really saw potential in these two kind of friend characters here. So he optioned the rights from me to produce a film just based on those two characters. And I don't think nothing's really happened with it yet, but it might be funny if it does.
Me, though. She tells me everything.
Spencer, she an escort? I mean, no offense, but how the hell did you get a girl like that? Did you pay her or something?
No, I didn't pay her.
Where did you meet her anyways?
On the internet.
You're a lucky guy, Spence. I'm totally jealous.
I'm the luckiest man in the world.
It's your move.
I play the winner.
I really like this shot. I like the music. It was Chase Axton was the director of photography on this, and he did a phenomenal job.
I love you. Lucy.
You can see the picture there on the nightstand that he stole from the little memorial thing at the site of her death.
Lucy,
That's Mike Charnay there as the cop. I remember we were trying to track down some realistic police badges, and we couldn't find any that really looked that good. And we had a guy on set who was like some sort of like police consultant or whatever, who was, you know, helping out on the crew, and I guess he had a big problem with how bad these badges looked, and that's why Mike is kind of covering it with his hand just to hide the fact that it looks so crappy. And that's Anna Samolenko there on the right.
August Metro Homicide. This is Detective Mroziak. Are you Spencer Milton?
And the two names he gives there, the last names are people that donated money to the movie to help it get made.
Yeah? We need to talk.
And you can see there, I'm going to back it up
Detective
a bit.
August Metro Homicide. This is Detective
You
Mroziak.
can see Anna's just looking at him
Are you
with like
Spencer Milton?
absolute disgust.
We need to talk.
So this is another thing that like a few people had an issue with, and they were trying to argue that, you know, Spencer would be in jail, but they kind of missed the point that this is like, you know, a few days, a week later. They wouldn't. It would unlikely be that the police would hold him without bail for a crime like this. Like, it's not a violent crime. You know, they would have arrested him and he would have, you know, been arraigned or whatever and been released on bail. So this is a week later. It's not like the same day. And we kind of planned that each of these people has a different look, ranging from, you know, I told you so, to confusion, to like, you know, unbelieving, to, you know, disappointed, and then ending on like absolute disgust.
I just don't understand.
And I'm always kind of amazed that there were people that really responded to this movie, because it's kind of a love story. Like, if you forget how creepy and kind of disturbing it is, it does have like a kind of sweetness to it. And Spencer is kind of like a misfit that you can't help kind of pitying a bit. And a lot of people responded to that and really liked this movie. And I have like especially one kind of like super fan of this movie who still says she watches this like every day. She loves it. She's told all her friends about it. She said it's her favorite movie of all time, which I find, you know, hard to believe, but, you know, makes me feel good that we made something that appealed to somebody like that. It's kind of funny that, you know, this is only 2015, but the skyline of Edmonton has changed so much since then. And, you know, now there's like another massive skyscraper now that's the biggest or the tallest building in Canada, like west of Toronto, if I'm not mistaken. But it wasn't there at this point. And here we kind of see how Spencer, how he imagined everything going. You know, he didn't see her as a dead body. He saw her as a real person. And I remember for some reason we just had trouble getting this action of this like hug and sitting down to work. Like, it seems like such a simple thing, but I remember it just somehow, I don't know, it didn't quite work, and we had to film it a bunch of times. The fact that it was slippery as hell didn't really help. Oh yeah, this part here. This was so hilarious. Like, yeah, for this shot, because we needed the camera to be where Afton's head is. So I think like the DP was basically like the one dancing with Spencer, and then Afton was kind of like squished in between them, kind of crouching down so that just her arms were around. And of course, as we're moving, we had you know, someone with a light or something, or trying to bounce the light off his face, and the sound person, but we had to kind of all move with them, otherwise as we're turning they'd be in the shot. So we were kind of this like like 5-way dance of like everyone kind of crammed together, turning around, and it was so awkward, and we were kind of laughing at just how ridiculous it was. And I think we were almost ready to give up on the shot at one point because it just wasn't working, but we finally got it.
I love you.
I love you, Spencer.
That's her only line in the movie. I can't remember where this music came from, but it's really nice. Yeah, this is the other shot that we were doing on the tracks the same time we were doing the other one. But this one was hard just because it was closer up, and then we do the like the tilt down to the flowers, I think. Yeah, that was a hard shot to get. We did that so many times. Of course, it was just cold out, which made it more frustrating. He's eating from a can of green beans. Could almost make a movie with that creepy little doll on the left there.
Lucy, you're back!
This part's pretty cool. I like the shot too. So I guess it's kind of open to interpretation how she comes back. Like, she could be some sort of like a zombie or a ghost. I guess she could have come back to life, but I kind of imagine it's some sort of paranormal reason that she is all of a sudden back. And because the whole movie kind of plays it that, you know, he's in love, you're supposed to sympathize with him, but in reality he's basically having sex with a corpse against Lucy's will, if you think about it objectively. So it's pretty horrible what he's doing. So he kind of deserves punishment. And then Lucy, who you assume is in love with him, even though she's a body, and in his imagination she's in love with him. But it's like, no, if she was alive, she would be pretty pissed off about what's happening. And then for whatever reason, she's back, and yeah, she's going to come and kill him.
Apparently, Lucy didn't take kindly to her corpse being used as Spencer's plaything. It seems the filmmakers ran out of film before we could see Spencer butchered in his bed.
Yeah, there were people like online that kind of mentioned that it's like we ended it too early. We should have shown what happened. So I kind of made the joke that we just kind of ran out of budget and couldn't finish the movie.
Until next time.